Welcome back, whisky fans. Last one of the Scottish, well, not just Scottish, of the new distillery series. And I've saved one that people will probably be looking forward to, one that people are going to be interested in until last. It's a big one. This is Daftmill. So, where's the bottle whisky lock? Well, it's not here as where it is. It is probably in a bin somewhere, because for this review I've got a couple of little samples, 30ml samples from Master of Malt, not a sponsor, as always. And the reason why I've got those is because Daftmill, apart from the fact that I don't want to pay the best part of £100 for a whisky that I haven't really tried a great deal in the past, Daftmill is almost impossible to buy unless you're going to sell a kidney and head out onto the auctions where you're going to pay absolutely above and beyond through the nose for a Daftmill because it's that kind of whisky. You are not going to get a bottle of Daftmill at anywhere near recommended retail. Daftmill is one of the most sought after whiskies from any of the new distilleries, and I think a large part of that is because it's all to do with that scarcity thing, which is impacting probably like nearly a quarter of the reputable kind of legendary whisky distilleries. We're seeing availability problems even here in the UK with a lot of the really well thought of whisky, which sucks. It's terrible. And we need to do something about that. But more than other distilleries, Daftmill is scarce and desirable and sought after and sells immediately because they produce so little of it. It is a small scale farm distillery. It's, from what I gather, it's a little bit more of a hobby on a farm rather than a full scale commercial distillery. That's not to say that they don't have professional stuff, professional equipment, and make good whisky, because they do. But to put it in perspective, Daftmill has a capacity of 20,000 litres of spirit every year. Just to make it worse, they don't even work all year round. They work 6 months out of every 12, so there is not a lot of Daftmill around. And it's going to sell out as soon as it's put up for sale. So in the past, I've actually tried one Daftmill in the past. It's in my tasting notes, and it was one of the very early releases. I think it was back in 2018. I actually got a sample back then as well, because the full bottles have always been incredibly hard to get hold of. And I didn't give it a spectacular review in my notes, but because I'm doing this series of whiskies from new distilleries, I'm trying to review kind of one of everything, and I really wanted to get something from Daftmill to represent them, because it's one that everyone's talking about. Saying that, why is Daftmill part of the series? Because technically Daftmill has been around for a very long time. They were actually founded they began operation in 2005. So they are a similar age to Kilchoman and the English Whisky Distillery here in Norfolk, and they've been around for quite a few years, and they've been putting mature age statement stock out for quite a while. But Daftmill decided to do things a little bit differently, and another reason why you've probably never seen any Daftmill out in the wild is that they were in a financial situation where they had the option to decide not to release any whisky until they had mature 12-year-old stock. So there were, and probably never will be, any 3, 4, 5-year-old Daftmills out there. It's all sitting around the 12-year-old mark, although if you have a look, and they're even more expensive, there are a couple of like 15-year-olds and things like that around now. So I didn't originally think that I was going to be able to get hold of any Daftmill, and I kind of gave up on the idea. But a few months ago, Master of Malt had an exclusive single cask Daftmill up for sale, and naturally they can't just put it on the website, and Master of Malt did probably the responsible thing and put it up for ballot. This was back in early September, and when they did that, they also had, I think it was a secondary ballot to get some of these samples, and they were limited to 2 per customer. So even the samples, they were predicting there was going to be demand for them. So I jumped at the chance to get a couple of samples so I could include them in the series. And obviously those full bottles that went up for ballot, they were bought up by the lucky winners, flippers, who took those off the market straight away and will probably keep them off the market until they can sell them for a profit. Here's a question for you though. How long do you think it was before these samples sold out? Same whiskey, but more affordable. Little individually packaged drams. So you think people would be climbing over themselves for these, wouldn't you? Trick question. They're still not out of stock. These were put up for ballot in September, early September, and as of they are still available to buy. So it would appear nobody wants them. Everyone wants the full bottles, but nobody wants the little samples. I think that tells you something about the majority of people that are buying Daftmill. They're not buying it because they're looking forward to getting it and cracking it open and drinking it and sharing it with friends. I'd even go as far to guess that maybe the majority of Daftmill bottles have still not been opened. The people that are buying bottles of Daftmill, they are hoarding it and they're flipping it. Not these ones though, not these drams. These ones are going to be consumed as they were intended. So a few details from the label. This is a 2008 Daftmill. It says that it's an exclusive for Master of Malt, but if you have a look online, the label and the bottle, they all look very Daftmill-y. I think that it's not like an independently bottled thing. It was bottled and packaged by Daftmill for Master of Malt. And this is single malt, obviously. It's cask strength at 56.6% ABV, and it is single cask number 25-2008. So it's a very early release from Daftmill. We also know that this was bottled in 2021, or it was decasked in 2021, which means that it's around about 13 years old. So I did have two of these. This one is gone. Had that one for my tasting notes, so I've got one left to nose and taste on this video. So let's do what we do. Let's get some in that glass. Cover that up. Don't want it evaporating. It's expensive. Trap it in. Whiskey is crazy these days. The scarcity and the greed, it's very much not in the spirit of what whiskey was originally intended to be. Back in the days in the Scottish Highlands with the barter system and using it as a commodity and trading in communities, those original pioneer distillers up in Scotland would have been horrified if they saw the greed and pure capitalism that is modern whiskey. So 2008, Daftmill, cask 25, whatever, on the nose. Flowery and peppery, quite floral, like a dry, like cut flowers, slightly hard mineral floral quality. Quite musty, gristy barley. A little bit inky as well, like the smell that you get when you've written like a lot of stuff. You've written a whole page with an old ink biro, and you get that smell of the ink coming up off the page. A little bit of an inkiness. Dry cereal. It's got a dry and austere lowland style to it, so a little bit of lowland terroir there. A bit of a note like a dry white wine. Green apple and a little bit of a grapperish quality to it. So a little bit of that kind of fatty, oily grape must quality that you get in grappa. Going back to that floral, slightly hard mineral note that I was getting before. Also a little bit of a note of Parma violets in there. So interesting, challenging, well made, but not spectacular. Let's see how it tastes. I think probably, as you can see from the fact that there are no legs at all on this, that I am drinking this at the full cask strength of 56.6. And it is drinkable at 56.6. Absolutely is the case that you can enjoy this at full strength. Although I would say that it does benefit and open up and calm down a bit with literally 1 or 2 drops of water. On the palate, fatty, oily and fatty and thick, but also curiously light. And I think that that's not an unusual thing. It's kind of a stereotypical part of the lowland character, that they are dry and fatty, but also delicate. A little bit of lemon on the palate, notes of lemon and melon fruit as well. More of that lemon barley water coming through, and more chalky, bitter, dry maltiness. I'd also say slightly peppery and quite grassy as well, which are obviously more notes that are kind of stereotypically lowland. I must say that I am really pleased that not just the existing lowland distilleries, but the resurrected Bladnoch and Kingsbarns and Lockleigh and Daftmill and Annandale, I think more than any other region, the lowlands has more of a common sort of terroir, a regional style. You look at Highland and Speyside and Islay and Ireland, and there are abundant whiskies in those regional groups that don't fit with the rest, but with lowland whiskies they almost all do follow a similar trend. And I don't for a second think that that's because of the local air or the local water supply. It's not that. It's obviously just that these distilleries in that part of Scotland have chosen to kind of capitalise on and keep alive that heritage and that local style. I like it though. I like that that style is still more of a thing in the lowlands than it is in a lot of other regions of Scotland. As for the finish on this one, it's light, delicate again, but really quite short. Interesting flavours though. Interesting and challenging, which is always, it's better than the alternative, isn't it? It's better than bland. As I said before, I am going to add literally a couple of drops of water to this. I'm going to show you how much I mean when I say literally a drop or two. Hopefully I don't overdo this. There we go. Maybe one more. Yeah, that's more than enough. Probably could have got away with just the first one that went in there. I am using bottled water because the water over here, although it's perfectly safe and drinkable, it does have a flavour. So I buy bottled water in fair bulk and I try it. And if I think that it's neutral and it's not going to affect the flavours of the whiskey, I use it. I don't go any fancier than that. I don't buy like specific. I'm going to turn the label away from that, stop advertising it. It is Scottish mountain water, which I didn't buy on purpose. Not sure what Scottish mountain water means. Does that mean it comes from a tap halfway up Glencoe? Possibly. But I buy whatever neutral tasting bottled water you can get for a good price in bulk, and I just use it. And if it's not a problem, keep using it. Hopefully we might see a little bit of Scotch mist forming. I don't know if I've got a lid to put on this. Probably not. Don't know where they've gone. Oh well, we'll have to live with that. Getting some more sweetness coming through now, a little bit more caramel on the nose. Still floral, still got that hard barley character. Yeah, a little bit more like confectioner's caramel. Just really, the floral quality is still there, but it's just amped up that sweetness. It's actually giving it a little bit more body as well. It's turned from quite sharp and dry to a bit more rounded and sweet. So I can see that probably a lot of people would, I'll probably knock that down to about 48%, I'd guess. A lot of people might prefer it around there. And to be honest, I think I probably prefer it with a little bit less water than that. Just a single drop. Just helps it round out and open up a bit. As I was saying though, interesting flavours. It's got character and it's got challenging flavours. I would say that it definitely doesn't smell or taste any more than its age, which you would possibly kind of hope for given the price tag and how hard this stuff is to find. I would say that it is on par with that bourbon matured Loch Lee that I had, and of course the Loch Lee has a little bit more youth, but really I think that between Loch Lee and this, they are similar profile whiskies. Obviously with a Loch Lee you don't get cask strength, but the level of enjoyment I get between these two, they're both cracking little lowland whiskies, and for the money I would go with the Loch Lee. I think this one, despite the scarcity and the age and the high price, I think that it is disappointingly close to what you're getting from other young lowland distilleries. As for a grade, I think I would go with a C+ for this one. May possibly stretch to a B-, but I'm really not going to sort of hype it up any more than that, because I absolutely don't think that this is anything. It's good, it's very good, but it's not anything exceptional that is worth chasing at auction. And like I said before, one of my favourite things about this is it is true to that classic lowland style, but it is absolutely not any holy grail which is worth losing sleep over. Let me know what you think about Daftmill, if you've been lucky enough to get any and you've actually opened it. Thanks for watching, and cheers.